From prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. You can catch new episodes at Creature Guide Live throughout the day on Rumble and YouTube. Now, let's get into the news of the day. Starting off with an article by Outdoors.com. Shaken to my core, sea lion attacks surfer in bizarre incident. Well. This is interesting. A sea lion acted unhinged and deranged when it attacked a surfer off the coast of Oxnard, California, in Ventura County. And so we have both California sea lions and Steller sea lions within this region. The surfer, RJ La Mendola, survived with a nasty bite, but he said the haunting experience left him hesitant to get back in the water after 20 years of surfing. While wildlife experts say the sea lion was likely sick from domoic acid poisoning, which can make the animals unusually aggressive. That's interesting. I was going to expect something like rabies, not domoic acid poisoning. I wonder where that's coming from. I'm not familiar with that toxin. So we don't know whether or not this was a California sea lion or a Steller sea lion. California sea lions are smaller than their Steller sea lion counterparts, both two distinct species of pinniped, which is the group of marine mammals in which animals like the walrus, ringed seals, and these two species of sea lion belong to. And technically, all sea lions are seals. They're just called sea lions because of the distinct mane that the males form as they mature, unlike other species of seal. Also, they don't tend to have the same fat content as like different species of Arctic and marine seals. I mean, Arctic and Antarctic seals. They're all marine seals. Yeah, all pinnipeds are marine mammals. Now, the California sea lion can reach up to somewhere around 1,500 pounds. That's a very large male. Females don't usually exceed the 700-pound range, whereas when you're looking at the Steller sea lion, and both these animals, technically the California sea lion has a much more southern range than the Steller sea lion. The California sea lion extends from like southeast Alaska down to the shores of central um, technically like halfway down Mexico. And then you can find them off of Baja California, especially during the winter months. And then during the spring, summer months, they travel north into their breeding areas from different parts of like the coasts of Oregon down to Baja California. The thing in some instances, their breeding range can extend a bit further north. But the Steller sea lion, however, you can only find from southern Alaska, like still in the southeastern area, but a bit further north down to southern California. That's about the most southern extent of the range. And Steller sea lions can also reach up to 2,700 pounds. So they are much larger than the California sea lion. Their females, on the other hand, that's referring to the males. The females don't usually reach much more than 5 to 600 pounds. So they might be a bit smaller than the California females, which is interesting. But these two animals don't usually hunt people. They mainly go after different species of fish, but also the different species of krill in the region is a major part of their feeding behavior. They are the food source for marine mammals such as the orcas in the region, and you can have it occasionally depending on the subpopulation of these animal or carnivores such as wolves, cougars, possibly even bears will hunt these smaller individuals, especially the pups. Not usually going after a full-grown male, but, um, also the males can just be a bit lazy, and instead of just fighting back, they just retreat to the water, which in a survival situation, that is pretty smart. The problem is it's probably a bit safer to stay on land than opposed to going to the water because of the orcas that inhabit the regions. As you can find the orcas from, um, like, throughout the both of these sea lions, native range. So today I endured the most harrowing and traumatic experience of my 20 years of surfing on an encounter that left me shaken to my core, Lemondola wrote in his March 21st Facebook post. It started as an ordinary session, just me and my board, about 150 yards from the shore, riding the waves in solitude, until out of nowhere, a sea lion erupted from the water, hurtling toward me at full speed. Its mouth gaped wide, teeth flashing, and its eyes locked onto me with an unsettling ferocity. La Mendola goes on to detail the harrowing ordeal. The sea lion bit into him and tried to yank him off his board. This is the description he's giving of the attack. This is pretty natural sea lion hunting behavior when it comes to different species of seals, because not just the sea lions in general, because we're also mentioning like even the um, when referring to sea lions, there's also the South American sea lion, and they also reach around the 1,300-pound range when referring to the males. But they will also hunt different species of marine birds, especially different species of penguins, especially the who was it? The Gentoo penguins in that region. No, the Gentoo penguins are further south, they're over in Georgia Islands. There's another species of penguin, it's not hitting me. But, they will also prey on a variety of other different species of birds, and, what they do is they grab the animal and yank it from side to side, almost like a crocodile or an alligator after it's pulled off a chunk of flesh, or it's captured a small enough animal and it yanks it from side to side. Usually in that case, it just tears apart, or at least it just breaks the neck of the bird instantly, its wings, and it wouldn't relent as the surfer tried desperately to get back to shore. When he did get to shore, Lemondola drove himself to the emergency room and tried to process what had just happened and why. Oh, it's pretty smart. When he contacted the Channel's Islands Marine Wildlife Institute to report the incident, Lemondola said, they're currently dealing with a wave of incidents across Santa Barbara and Ventura County involving sea lions and other marine mammals affected by domoic acid toxicosis. It's a neurological condition caused by toxic algae blooms. I haven't looked into the effects of these toxic algae blooms very much on not just the marine wildlife that's occurring over in and inhabits Western California, but even over in different parts of Florida, possibly South Carolina. I know for sure it's happening in Florida, and it's affecting the manatees or sea cows in the region, which are, despite their somewhat, you could say, pinniped appearance, probably a bit more closer to a walrus, they're not closely related. They're actually a completely different group of marine mammals, bit more closely related to whales and hippos than they are seals or pinnipeds. And there's around 33 different species of pinniped. Okay, so and it's driving these creatures into aggressive, uncharacteristic behavior. Geez, so we've got like a zombie apocalypse going on over here. That's gotta stop. The sea lion that attacked me wasn't just acting out, it was sick. Its mind warped by this poison coursing through its system. Oh, where's my mouse? Oh, yeah, this is a bit terrifying. I mean, think about it. Let's say this is a California sea lion, and he didn't say whether or not, though, it was a male or a female. They tend to be quite distinctive in appearance. But even if it was a female and you have a 400-pound animal coming towards you like that, that is freaky. And it's a problem, like with how many of these individuals are being affected by this poison from the toxic algae blooms. Sea lions are naturally curious, playful animals, and sea lion attacks on humans are rare under normal circumstances. Yeah, it's usually if you get too close to maybe a female with her pup, or definitely the males, and then they can become a bit aggressive. It's usually towards the breeding season, though. Outside of that, they tend to be much more docile. Unfortunately, it's not normal circumstances right now along the California coast. Harmful algae blooms have poisoned scores of California sea lions and dolphins that are stranding on beaches in the area. That's not good. We've um I need to take a look into what's causing all this. Animals with domoic acid toxicosis can be unpredictable and sadly, uncharacteristically aggressive, as was the case with the sea lion La Mendola encounter that day in the ocean. Thankfully, La Mendola said in a follow up post that he is healing well and looks forward to getting back in the water when the blooms clear up and he can secure a new wetsuit. Oh, that's interesting. He recovered mentally. Like earlier, it sounded like he wasn't going to go back into the water for some period of time, but it's good. He's just going to go back in, and he's like anybody. He's just going to be aware that some of these animals might be aggressive and infected. So, did it bite him on the? No, it's just his shirt. I think we don't know where it bit him. Yeah, that was what it said earlier. Wait, what? Mm, oh, Uh, okay. Let's see what happened. What we didn't catch. I barely dodged that first charge, my breath catching as I spun around, desperate to head for shore. But I had no idea where it had gone. The vastness of the ocean swallowed its presence, leaving me scanning the surface in growing unease. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught a blur of motion. It was back, charging again, teeth bared like some deranged predator, because it was. This time, it slammed into my board with unbelievable force, diving beneath me in a swift, fluid arc that sent a shiver down my spine. I feel like I'm imitating Les Stroud when he's suffering from lack of food. I mean, it is. I whipped around again, adrenaline surging, my mind racing as I realized this was no playful encounter. This was something else entirely, something wrong. Panic set in as I paddled toward shore with everything I had, the beach still a distant speck on the horizon. My arms burned, my chest heaved, but the distance felt insurmountable. Then I saw it again with another furious charge, this time more enraged than before. Its movements were erratic, wild, and almost unhinged. I turned to my board to face it, hoping to shield myself, splashing water and shouting in a desperate bid to scare it off.
Is this part of Jaws 26?
Yeah, it sounds really good. But it didn't flinch. It kept coming, unstoppable, its jaws snapping closer. As the last possible second, no, at the last possible second, as its teeth loomed inches from my face, I swung my arm to fend it off. This must have not been a very big animal, but okay. A clumsy attempt at a punch. It twisted its neck with eerie agility, dodging my strike, and then lunged. Its jaws clamped down hard on my left butt cheek. That's gotta hurt. Um, Piercing through my 5 by 4 millimeter wetsuit like it was nothing. Yeah, pinnipeds in general. Well, especially if you're looking at the variety of different species of seals, but something like a leopard seal would have been even worse. But well, I can't confirm that. I haven't looked at the bite forces of the different like Pacific seals and Antarctic seals. But walrus don't really have the type of teeth. Not that they wouldn't hurt, but it's more designed for just crushing through different mollusks in the ocean. Which I mean, when looking at the different molars that walruses have, that might be a bit. I could be a bit biased on that. They could actually be quite powerful. Anyway, let's keep going with his catastrophe. The pain was sharp and immediate, but the terror was worse. It shook its head violently, tugging me off my board by my flesh, dragging me into the water. Oh, gee. Yeah, he was really trying to kill you. I don't know how to describe the fear that gripped me in the moment. So far from shore, so helpless. Staring into the face of this creature that looked like nothing I'd ever seen, its expression was feral, almost demonic. He was. Yeah, I mean, obviously he's been possessed. Devoid of the curiosity or playfulness I'd always associated with sea lions. With a surge of desperation, I wrenched myself free, clawing my way back onto my board. Blood seeped into my wetsuit as I dug my arms into the water, paddling harder than I ever had in my life. But it wasn't over. The sea lion stalked me, swimming alongside, charging again and again, 3, maybe 4 more times. Each time I twisted my body, keeping the board between us, shielding my arms and face from its relentless jaws. My heart pounded so hard that I thought it might burst. Every stroke towards shore fueled by raw survival instinct. All the while it trailed me, mouth open, lips quivering with an eerie, predatory intent, as if it wanted nothing more than to drag me under and finish me off. It didn't stop until my feet finally scraped the sand. This is like a World War II sort of like um uh, intensity, but it's with a sea lion.
Actually, it reminds me of Lake Placid.
um yeah, yeah, definitely that too. Um I stumbled onto the beach like, oh, that's why you're thinking of I'm thinking of the beach. I stumbled onto the beach, legs trembling, and turned back to see it still there, swimming back and forth along the shoreline, pacing like it was daring me to return. The sight was chilling. A haunting image burned into my mind. My wetsuit was shredded where he had bitten me. A jagged tear exposing the puncture wound in my buttock. Blood trickled down my leg, staining the sand. Oh, here we go. And the reality of what had just happened sank in. I didn't hesitate. I drove straight to the ER, clutching the steering wheel with shaky hands, still reeling from the ordeal. Later, I contacted the Channel Islands Marine Wildlife Institute to report what had happened, hoping for some explanation. What they told me was both sobering and alarming. They're currently dealing with a wave of incidents across Santa Barbara and Ventura County involving sea lions and other marine animals affected by domoic acid toxicosis. It's a neurological condition caused by toxic algae blooms and it's driving these creatures into aggressive and uncharacteristic behavior. The sea lion that attacked me wasn't just acting out, it was sick. Its mind warped by this poison coursing through its system. Knowing that doesn't erase the terror, but it adds a layer of sadness to the fear. It is sad that this is occurring to these guys. They're just normally out there, aside from um, horribly, ripping apart marine birds. They're just out there hunting for squid, krill, fish. Okay, occasionally they're even smushing their pups of their own species. So I wouldn't call these the kindest of animals. Pinnipeds in general, they tend to be given a bit too much of a uh, sometimes docile sort of persona, but they tend to also be more aggressive just during the breeding part of the year. Um, Also, you have northern elephant seals in the region too, but at least where he was, didn't sound like they were inhabiting this region. Now, let's see. Do. Still, I can't. Oh, wait. I'm lucky. All things considered, the bite was deep, the pain lingering, but it hit my buttock. Not in an artery, not my face, not something worse. Still, I can't shake the memory of its quivering lips, the relentless pursuit, the feeling of being hunted in a place I've always loved. Yeah, you were being hunted. If you're out there on the water, especially around Santa Barbara or Ventura, please be cautious. This isn't normal sea lion behavior. It's something darker, something dangerous. Well, obviously, he wanted to kill you. I'm grateful to be alive up to tetanus and back on solid ground. Tetanus? Tetanus. Just the right here. But I won't be paddling out again anytime soon, unfortunately. Well, this was the weird thing on the article. It made it out like he was ready to hit the water again. Okay. Well, um, let me know what your thoughts are. I mean, here's the thing. This was quite interesting. I found it rather entertaining, um, of his ordeal. But yeah, it is extremely sad that this is occurring to the sea lions in the region. Even the dolphins. Dolphins can also become quite aggressive, and just it's unfortunate that it occurred to him. And let me know what your thoughts are on this incident in the comments. I also now just figured out how they came up with the movie Ace Ventura because I didn't realize there was a county or a place in California called Ventura. So, um, oh, and thank you for joining Creature Guy Life. Now let's move on to the next article by phys.org. Ancient rhino tooth protein recovery eliminates family tree. So I'm guessing this is the tooth fossil of the rhino. It's a fossilized tooth. Just oh, no, never mind. So weird. I think somebody took a picture of the side of the tooth. I don't believe it's just this. I think it's the whole tooth that we're looking at. Scientists have shed new light on the rhino family tree after recovering a protein sequence from a fossilized tooth from more than 20 million years ago. So this is taking place during the early Miocene epoch. Since it's mentioning this is 20 million years old, this is far before animals like different species of woolly rhino, especially the famous genus Coelodonta, which there are over 4 different species of, but they wouldn't evolve until like the middle Pleistocene, somewhere around a million years ago. They didn't have too long of a reign, despite them spreading into 4 different species. The recovered protein sequences allowed researchers to determine that this ancient rhino diverged from other rhinocerodids during the Miocene, Eocene, Oligocene epoch, around 41 to 25 million years ago. Yeah, they were quite. There were a variety of different members of the rhinocerodids during the Eocene, Oligocene, the Miocene, and then um, later approaching the present. That also looked very different from today's rhinos. Some cases with their horn-like structures, it's a bit of a debate as to whether or not some of them, especially the different brontotheres that used to inhabit the Oligocene, no, sorry, late Eocene. So it's around 36 million years ago. Yeah, so they had like this two shaped, or how would you call it? Almost like, the base part of a slingshot. That's just how like the horn-like structure looked. And these animals could still reach somewhere around 2 tons, even back in the late Eocene epoch. Different species have been found in certain areas of Asia, though they are very distant relatives of modern rhinos. They still belong to the overall just large group of um, not rhinoceronati. There's a more broader group of artiodactyls that they belong to. Now, artiodactyls is a very um, just basic term when it comes to just the variety of different mammals. There's several different families of mammals that belong to the artiodactyl family tree. The data also shed new light on the divergence between the two main subfamilies of rhinos, Elasmotherinae and Rhinoceratini. So Elasmotherinae consisted of a more famous woolly rhino that specifically had one horn protruding from its skull, the Elasmotherium, which existed in the Pleistocene or Ice Age around 200,000 years ago and inhabit different parts of the mammoth steppe with the woolly mammoths, the cave lions, different species of cave hyena in the region. And so you could find them in different areas of Russia and possibly over even to different parts of Alaska and the Yukon, not usually venturing much further south, suggesting a more recent split in the Oligocene around 34 to 22 million years ago. So that's about the time frame of the Oligocene epoch, then shown previously through bone analysis. Oh, but this is interesting. Okay. Wasn't hitting me for a second. The successful extraction and sequencing of ancient enamel proteins from a fossilized rhino tooth extends the timescale for recoverable evolutionary informative protein sequences by tenfold compared to the oldest known ancient DNA. Wow. Okay, this is really good. The team at York were involved in confirming that the proteins were and amino acids were genuinely ancient. They analyzed the rhino tooth, which was unearthed in Canada's high Arctic, using a technique known as chiral amino acid analysis to gain a better understanding of how the protein within it had been preserved. By measuring the extent of protein degradation and comparing it to previously analyzed rhino material, they were able to confirm that the amino acids were original to the tooth and not the result of later contamination. Okay, this is really interesting. I don't really have a whole lot to say here at the moment because it's just mentioning what they found on the tooth. Dr. Mark Dickinson, co author and postdoctoral researcher at the University of York's Department of Chemistry, said, "It is phenomenal that these tools are enabling us to explore further and further back in time. Building on our knowledge of ancient proteins, we can now start asking fascinating new questions about the evolution of ancient life on our planet." The rhino is of particular interest as it is now classified as an endangered species. And so, understanding its deep time evolutionary history allows us to gain vital insights into how past environmental changes and extinctions shaped the diversity we see today. Now, did you find anything on? I don't think they mentioned anything on like the specific, maybe um, certain plants or just vegetation that they found on the teeth, just mentioning these different proteins. To date, scientists have relied on the shape and structure of fossils, or more recently, ancient DNA, aDNA, to piece together the evolutionary history of long extinct species. However, aDNA rarely survives beyond 1 million years, limiting its utility for understanding the deep evolutionary past. While ancient proteins have been found in fossils from, where's the mouse? from the middle late Miocene, roughly last 10 million years, roughly the last 10 million years. Yeah, you could say that's around the late Miocene. The Pliocene usually ranges from like 8 million to around 2 million years ago, a little over 2 million years ago. So it's pretty short amount of time. It's like 5 million years for the Pliocene. Obtaining sequences detailed enough for robust reconstructions of evolutionary relationships was previously limited to samples no older than 4 million years. The new study, published in the journal Nature, significantly expands that window, demonstrating the potential of proteins to persist over vast geological timescales under the right conditions. Fazila Muner, who analyzed the tooth as part of her doctoral research at the University of York's Department of Chemistry, said successful analysis of ancient proteins from such an old sample gives a fresh perspective to scientists around the globe who already have incredible fossils in their collections. This important fossil helps us to understand our ancient past. Yeah, but okay, so it's okay, what they found I think I got a bit lost. Um, something about the rhinos. It's just occurring. What a few. Here, I'm going to keep reading, but I might have to go back over this. The fossil was in a region of Canada um, currently characterized by permafrost, and yeah, that's specific. Would you find it in the Yukon or Alaska? Did you find it in like some Nunavut territory? Characterized by permafrost, and researchers say that dental enamel and the relatively cold environment the fossil was found in played an important role in the long preservation of the proteins. Yeah, of course it did. Permafrost. Dental enamel provides a stable scaffold that can protect ancient proteins from degradation over geological time. Hardness of enamel, which results from the complex structure of minerals, acts as a protective barrier, slowing down the breakdown of proteins that occurs after death. Professor Enrico Capellini from Globe Institute, University of Copenhagen, said the Houghton crater may be a truly special place for paleontology. The biomolecular vault protecting proteins from decay over vast geological timescales. Its unique environmental history has created a site with exceptional preservation of ancient biomolecules, akin to how certain sites preserve soft tissues. This finding should encourage more paleontological fieldwork in regions around the world. I'm not too familiar with the Houghton crater and the specimens that have been found within this region. Ryan, okay, hmm. So I think there's not much I can say about this at the moment because, well, you know what? Maybe I'm going to go back up real quick. What did they say? Okay, so there was looks like there was a more recent split between Elasmotherinae and Rhinoceratini in the Oligocene between 34 to 22 million years ago. So it's apparently it was just more recent than it was previously suggested, somewhere between 41 to what 25 million years ago. No, this is saying that the ancient recovered protein sequences. Okay, I'll have to go over this later. This is really interesting. I mean, I do have quite an interest in rhinos from just prehistoric rhinos in general. So let me know what your thoughts are on this rhino protein that they discovered in Canada and the Houghton crater in the comments. And thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now let's move on to the next article. By IFL Science. Woylies bring back boing back into Western Australia thanks to groundbreaking wildlife project. I didn't know you could use that for a verb. I thought it was like slang. Woylies take a hop, skip, and a jump back into Western Australia's wheat belt region. Okay, let's take a look at our mites. Hey, Joshua Hungerford, field ecologist, and one of the woylies released outside the feral fenced area at Mount Gibson Wildlife Sanctuary in Western Australia's wheat belt region in July of 2025. Wow. Okay, so this was maybe a couple weeks ago. So a woylie is a member of the mac- macropodontomorph order of marsupials. So this animal is actually a not too distant relative of the eastern and red kangaroo, the different species of wallabies. There's over 60, it's around 60 different species of macropodontomorph marsupial within Australia. Well, okay, that's not true. Most of them are in Australia. A few species are over in New Guinea, especially the different species of tree kangaroo. Australia only has 2 species of tree kangaroo. So this animal is also fairly small. They're somewhere around 12 to 15 inches in length, and they might reach somewhere around 46 ounces when looking at their weight. Oh, what? Oh, yes. The oilies do contain a pouch. The whole Macropodontomorph family does contain a pouch, which is where the small, I guess you say just, well, technically you could say the um, young are developed, but it's just at a completely different way compared to placental animals. So animals like, or creatures like people and elephants, lions, were all placentals. Over 100 endangered woylies have been set free from a fenced off area at Mount Gibson Wildlife Sanctuary, marking an energetic leap in their return to life in Western Australia's wheat belt region. Never mind kangaroos or koalas, woylies have to be up there with the most audaciously Aussie of all animals. Pictured a mouse crossed with a squirrel, but with spring-loaded legs that let it hop around under the cover of night, foraging for fungi in the bush. Yeah, the woylie. Um, well, hold on a second. Like many of Australia's wonderfully weird mammals, they're marsupials, meaning okay. The lovable species were wiped out from the wheat belt over 100 years ago after the introduction of new predators such as foxes and cats. But an ongoing conservation project is hoping to restore their presence. Yeah, feral foxes and cats have been decimating the different native marsupial species throughout Australia. Yeah, foxes and cats, not just them, but even the mice, the rats have to be taken into account. They and feral dogs, but especially foxes and cats, they were introduced to the mainland in the late 1800s and have just become rampant since then. I think there might be video here. Okay, so I think yeah, this looks really good. Yeah, woylies, they're a bit, yeah, they're a bit omnivorous, so they feed also on different species of insects, but they also love feeding on a variety of fungi within the region. So despite how arid it is within this part of Australia, and they inhabit many of the grasslands within the interior of the country, I believe in certain parts of the Northern Territory and just west of the region, even towards, southwestern and more southeastern areas of the grasslands of Australia, they can still find a variety of fungi. In 2015, the Australian Wildlife Conservancy set up a 7,830 hectare or 19,348 acre fenced area at Mount Gibson Wildlife Sanctuary in Badimia country and filled it with 162 woilies from 3 source sites. Wow. Oh, this sounds good. Um, there are a variety of different fenced protected areas within Australia that they're specifically fenced to not necessarily just keep the different marsupials within a certain area, but to help keep the invasive predators out. Now, there's also the massive dingo fence that was built decades before. Oh, no, 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 my bad. It was built in the early 1880s, and I think it's somewhere around 3,488 miles long. It stretches across well, pretty much all of southeastern Australia. It's not exactly an even fence, but it's to help with the dingoes and prevent them from attacking livestock. I don't know the overall effect that it had, but it definitely did really help with. Well, actually, I haven't necessarily looked into whether or not it helped with even invasive predators. The fenced area was cleared of all foxes and cats. So I'm guessing you had some guys go in and get rid of the foxes and cats, so shooting, any that they could find, which is good. I mean, I'm glad they're gone from that region, giving the Warleys a safe place to live, reproduce, and grow their population. 10 years on, the population has boomed to over 1,000. That's good. Really good. Proud of the Warleys. So, as well as the people that helped out with this. So, experts at the AWC decided it was time to make the next step. In a recent move, a small cohort of individuals was selected to move from inside to outside the safe haven. What? Uh, I would think that the population, I mean, 1,000 Warleys, these aren't very large animals, that you could have many more within these 19,000 acres. You decided to move them. Like, is it clear? Is there a certain section of land just outside of this protected area that's devoid of the foxes and cats? Because that seems really risky. Glimpse of the fenced off area at Mount Gibson Wildlife Sanctuary. Wow, okay, that I wasn't expecting. This thing is yeah, they're definitely not coming in. They're referring to the foxes and cats. Woylies are one of the great success stories for the sanctuary because once the threat of cats and foxes was removed, they were able to thrive as a population and have even shown good resilience through a recent severe drought in the region. Dr. Amanda Bourne, AWC regional ecologist, said in a statement. I'm still concerned about these new woylies that they're putting outside of the fenced area. Is it because there's this? I don't know exactly like the different ecosystem or ecoregion types of this specific sanctuary in Australia? Um, is it that there's only a certain amount of habitat within the region that's preferred for the woilies, and then that's why they're introducing them to just outside of the fence? That would make sense, but I don't know, something's just off. Just before the release, there were already positive signs that the woilies were ready for the real world. They are in the real world, it's just fenced. Cameras outside of the pen spotted that some woilies, often the same individuals again and again, had escaped the fenced off area and were appearing to happily thrive. Oh, well, that's interesting. The cameras have picked up multiple females with young in their pouches or at heel, and we caught one woily 2 years in a row. These are all indications that some woilies are breeding and surviving outside the fence and that the species is ready for an intentional release, explained Dr. Bourne. Hey, in the coming months, ecologists will be keeping a close watch as the woilies find their feet as they venture beyond the fence. A handful have been fitted with tiny radio collars, allowing scientists to track their movements and see how life on the outside stacks up against the safety of the fenced area. The team will also run a trapping survey next month, check in on their health and survival. I am surprised that despite the size of this area, they're already, escaping, um, the fence. So, maybe they will do okay. Woylies are not the only animals gaining from this kind of conservation effort. In 2022 and 2023, respectively, the AWC tested similar beyond the fence strategies with the brush-tailed possum and the western quoll. These two species are larger and a bit tougher when it comes to predators like cats, but the trial still proved promising. The western quoll is actually a species of carnivorous marsupial that will hunt smaller species of marsupial and usually go after different species of insects, especially different species of termites. It's also a close relative of the Tasmanian devil. Releases of brush-tailed possums. Brush-tailed possums, I believe they just tend to feed on a variety of insects. And chudikch have been successful to date. Um, don't know specifically what that marsupial is at the moment. With high the chudikch, with high rates of survival and successful breeding. The success of these releases, together with the ongoing presence of some woylies outside the exclosure, provided the confidence we needed to attempt the release of woylies outside the well, this is the Tasmanian devil, so it's the relative of, um, the western quoll. Now, well, let's look up a western quoll. Now, the thing is that the Tasmanian devil used to inhabit the mainland around 3,500 years ago, but then it's almost as if right when the dingo appeared on Australia around this time, they ended up being restricted to Tasmania. Problem is Tasmanian devils at the moment are experiencing a extremely harmful virus that's affecting their population. That's why in many instances you'll see like this big bulge on the sides of Tasmanian devil faces. That's indicates they have the virus. So this is the western quoll, of which there are over 4 different species of quoll within Australia. There might be 5. Um, and yeah, these animals, many of them having spots, especially the eastern spotted quoll, tends to have more of a darker brown than the western quoll here. And they just tend to feed for the most part on a variety of different species of insects. Certain species can reach somewhere around 12 to 15 pounds. I think the western quoll might be around like the 8 to 11-pound range. Back to finishing the article. Okay, so the success of these releases, together with the ongoing presence of some woylies outside the exclosure, provided the confidence we needed to attempt the release of woylies outside the exclosure at Mount Gibson, which we hope will be as successful as possums and chuditch have been, Dr. Bourne added. Let's look up a chuditch, because I'm not familiar with this. But besides that, this is really good with the animals. Yeah, I did react, I guess, a little uh, just too quickly earlier on, what was going on with them and actually escaping the area because at first it just looked completely formidable, but apparently they did sneak through. And yeah, they seem to be doing quite well. I mean, going from just a handful of individuals. Oh, is hmm, uh, brushtail. Oh, wait, brushtail possums and chuditch. Oh, yep, it is the same thing. Um, I didn't know that that was another name for the western quoll. He even has in parentheses over here, the western quoll chuditch. Okay, so chuditch is the western quoll. Let me know what your thoughts are. In the Let me know what your thoughts are on the woylies increase in population within the Gibson Wildlife Sanctuary in the comments. And thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now let's move on to the next article. Oh, not you. Key wrist bone appeared by Sign News. Key wrist bone Key wrist bone appeared in bird ancestors millions of years earlier than previously thought. A team of paleontologists from Yale University and Stony Brook University made this discovery after examining fossils from two species of bird like dinosaurs found in the Gobi Desert in Mongolia. Well, that sounds good. That's not a bird. That's an oviraptor with a. Well, is this an oviraptor? That could be a different genre of theropod. There are certain species of theropods that look very similar to oviraptors, despite being part of a completely different family, especially the gigantoraptors. Okay, so here's the wrist bone, but this is just a. I'm guessing a non. Yeah, this has to be a non-avian dinosaur. If it's not an oviraptor. And it is. The scene depicts an oviraptorid dinosaur called Sitipati. This is not a new species of oviraptor genus. Believe it was similar in size to the more famous oviraptors, somewhere around 7 to 8 feet in length. Probably weighed somewhere around um, 60 to 80 pounds. Being startled while resting on a sand dune, the creature raises its arms in a threat display which reveals its wrists, highlighting a small migrated pisiform carpal. So, referring to specifically the wrist bone and the carpal. For years, the identity of one of the carpal bones in the wrists of birds was a scientific mystery until researchers proved it was the pisiform. This bone was originally a sesamoid bone, like a kneecap, and had moved from its original position in the wrist to replace the ulnare, another carpal bone. Its position in modern birds appears to establish linkages that allow birds to fold their wing atomically when the elbow flexes. The bone's shape with a large V-shaped notch also allows the pisiform of birds to clasp their hand bones to stop them from dislocating during flight. Therefore, this bone is an important part of a bird's forelimb and critical to flight. Oh, this is interesting what they've been finding about um, the ancestors of modern day birds and just their overall locomotion and movement of the different bones in their body. The pisiform in living birds is an unusual wrist bone in that it initially forms within a muscle tendon, as do bones like your kneecap, but it comes to occupy the position of a normal wrist bone called the ulnare, said Dr. Bahart and Han Buhlars. Sounds Indian. A paleontologist at Yale University. Be- yeah, because it is so intimately associated with arm musculature, its incorporation into the wrist ties the muscular flight machinery to wrist motion. Oh, okay. That's interesting. This integration this integration is particularly important for stabilizing the wing during flight. In their new study, Dr. Boular and colleagues analyzed two late Cretaceous fossils, an unnamed species of troodontid. It's always unnamed. Troodontids. So disrespected. Bird like raptor related to Velociraptor. Um, very different family of dromaeosaurs, the troodontid. But he didn't put closely related. So he is related to Velociraptor, but it's still quite off in the family tree. And Sittipati of CF Osmolsky. So is that like the subspecies I believe of Sittipati? I don't know. Oviraptorid with a long neck and a toothless beak. Yes, all oviraptorids were toothless, unlike the troodontids. Members of Velociraptorni, which is a family of dromaeosaurs, so the raptors, in which animals like Velociraptor belong to, but not all dromaeosaurs. It's just one subfamily. We were fortunate to have two immaculately preserved theropod wrists for this. um, Wrist bones are small, and even when they are preserved, they are not in the positions they would occupy in life, having shifted during decay and preservation. Seeing this little bone Seeing this little bone in the right position cracked it wide open and helped us interpret the risks of fossils we had on hand and other fossils described in the past. We believe this is the first time a migrated pisiform and a non-bird meat-eating dinosaur has been identified, said Dr. James Napoli. While we currently do not know precisely how many times dinosaurs learned to fly, it is integrated that experimentation with flight in these creatures appears only after the pisiform migrated into the wrist joint. Huh. Well, that's an interesting change in anatomy. Therefore, it is possible this established the automated mechanisms found in current living birds, though we would need to test this hypothesis with more research and analysis of dinosaur wrist bones. Putting their findings in evolutionary context, the authors determined that the pisiform moved into its bird-like position, not within birds, but by the origin of Penraptora. Okay, these guys. A group of theropod dinosaurs that includes dromaeosaurids like Velociraptor, Troodontids, and Oviraptorosaurs. Overall, this is the group of dinosaurs in which bird-like traits such as feathered wings began to appear, and which flight evolved at least twice, possibly up to 5 times. The topological and functional replacement of the ulnare by the pisiform occurred much deeper in theropod history than has been previously understood and was a stepwise process, the researchers said. Um, actually, so Penaraptora laid the foundation for this type of a wrist, which includes dromaeosaurs and possibly avian dinosaurs, basically the birds, and also the extinct bird lineages that lived throughout the Mesozoic and evolved this wrist function. So, yeah, this is really good. This is a really interesting find. And let me know what your thoughts are on this wrist discovery in the comments. And thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now let's move on to the next article. Eureka alert. Hi, Eureka alert. Giraffes really struggle with slopes. New research finds, of course, really? Because that's interesting. Because you see them traverse certain slopes over in the Namib Desert of Namibia, so in southwestern Africa. But you could say it's not exactly the same thing as harder dirt or especially rocky terrain. So let's take a look. New research finds that giraffes much prefer flat terrain, do not traverse slopes of more than 20 degrees, which severely limits the areas in and outside protected reserves they can access. Well, that makes sense as to why you only find them in very flat terrain for the most part. The findings, which are yet to be published, will be presented at the British Ecological Society's annual meeting in Liverpool on 13th of December. A new study analyzing the movements of 33 GPS collared giraffes in South Africa. Yeah, this specific giraffe species in the picture is a South African giraffe. So it's not a subspecies, it's a distinct species. Has found that they avoid steep terrain and are unable to navigate slopes with a gradient of more than 20 degrees, most likely due to the energy required and the risk of falling. I'm just wondering, maybe it was putting too much pressure on their joints. That didn't even hit me when it came to energy. The researchers from the University of Manchester and the University of the Free State, South Africa, found that giraffes will tolerate terrain of up to 12 degrees. That's interesting. But only if it leads to favorable vegetation. Jessica Graham-Weiler, a PhD candidate at the University of Manchester, who will present. Hold on. Wait. Who will present this research at the BES annual meeting, said We often think of giraffes roaming in large, flat grassland savannas in Africa, but that's not truly their true habitat. They're also rolling hills, deep riverbeds, and high plateaus. Oh, that didn't hit me with the deep rivers. In certain instances, and they're having to cross them. That's interesting. Wow, even yeah, that would be a major obstacle. Even for elephants, occasionally can be. Our study shows that giraffes much prefer flat areas. They will tolerate some steepness to access food, but simply cannot access areas above a 20-degree radius. It's quite shocking when you look at distribution maps. Giraffes are tolerant animals and resilient to many things like food availability and human pressures. But this is a scenario where they simply may not be able to adapt due to physiological limits. The findings highlight a mismatch between the ideal flat habitats of giraffes and the areas they're being conserved in. Using the newly discovered 20-degree gradient threshold, the researchers were able to calculate the proportion of habitats in key African countries where giraffes are currently found that are inaccessible to the animals. In Namibia and Tanzania, okay, so Tanzania is in Eastern Africa, so it's just south of Kenya. I mean, yeah, it's just south of Kenya. There's approximately 8,000 square kilometers that may be unusable to giraffes. That's nearly half the size of whales, said Jessica. In Kenya, in South Africa, there's approximately 4,000 square kilometers that may be unusable. What's even more worrying is that of all the countries we mapped, 1 in 3 had more unusable areas in protected areas and outside protected areas. Geez, that's unfortunate, especially for the giraffes. The issue is exacerbated when reserves are fenced, which many in South Africa are. If a reserve is, say, 200 hectares, but has a large mountain in the middle, from a giraffe's perspective, this reserve is not 200 hectares anymore, said Jessica. We need to start including topography in giraffe conservation planning and habitat assessments, especially for small fenced reserves. Yeah, you also wouldn't want it like in the future where this could cause dwarfism because the giraffes are blocked from, yeah, traveling a greater distance. It's kind of like with what you saw with the different species of mammoth that ended up getting marooned on these islands that in some cases weren't much larger than these. Actually, you could say in some instances they were larger than these reserves that some of these animals are fenced in. And these animals are meant to um well, you know what? I would have to double check that. Well, okay. That might have been a bit of a biased statement. I'm going to have to take a look into just how small those islands were that the mammoths ended up getting strangled on. Now, there are certain islands like St. Paul's Island that woolly mammoths ended up getting strangled on, or stranded on. Um, where else? The oh, St. Monica's Islands off the coast of California. The mammoths became the size, in some instances, of ponies, some even smaller, like um, size of a large dog, or I guess like somewhere around 200 pounds, maybe even actually in some cases even smaller. Um, and that's a problem that could occur in future generations with these giraffes if they truly aren't allowed to venture out of these different small protected areas, despite them being on the mainland. Let's see. Okay, Professor Suzanne Schultz, lead supervisor on Jessica's PhD, further commented steep and rugged environments are challenging for large bodied animals like giraffes. Unfortunately, natural and protected areas are more likely to be placed in such places, which can lead to a mismatch between the landscapes animals want to use and the landscapes that we have left for them. Incorporating geography and physical limitations in habitat assessments can help avoid conserving animals in appropriate places. Giraffes are currently found in 21 African countries, but despite their wide distribution, populations have been declining due to habitat loss, poaching, and human wildlife conflict. Okay, so conservation initiatives are critical for their survival. However, traditional habitat suitability models primarily focus on vegetation distribution, predation, and human disturbance and overlook topography. There are somewhere around 90,000 to 120,000 giraffes within Africa, comprising of all four species. Um, in the study, the researchers repurposed GPS data collected between 2011 to 2023 by Dr. Francois Deacon's team at the University of the Free State, South Africa, who fitted GPS collars to 33 giraffes, 10 males and 23 females, across 5 reserves in South Africa. The researchers combined this data with topographic maps to work out the gradients that giraffes could and couldn't navigate. Dr. Francois Deacon, who is also part of this research, said the more awareness we can bring to giraffe ecology, the more research effort there will be on the species in the future. The fact that we are still discovering major limitations or drivers of their ecology and behavior is worrying. But research like ours helps closing this gap in knowledge and will help better management and conservation of giraffes in the future. Yeah, this is concerning with how much less land in some cases these giraffes have access to, just simply due to their physiology. So yeah, the Mammuthus creticus. This one was from. This might have been over off the coast of California, possibly. And so this was somewhere around, I guess you could say 11,000 years ago when this occurred, and just stranded on the Santa Monica Islands, still coexisting with like the small gray fox within the region. Um, so yeah, this animal weighs somewhere around what a little somewhere between 3 to 400 pounds. And yeah, it's even shorter than a pony in this instance. Ponies are, I guess you could say it's about the height of a zebra in some instances, especially like a plain zebra. But uh plain zebras are bigger, when it comes to the weight. They can still reach 800 pounds, and this animal, may have reached somewhere around 630 pounds, like at most. So this is before, um, when originally the species would reach around 10 tons if you're looking at the Colombian mammoth. If this is the right specific species mammoth, this could maybe it's an African species. It's showing another picture with a hippo, but maybe that's relating to something else, or maybe that's also a dwarf species of hippo. I'll have to come back to Mammuthus creticus at another time. But let me know what your thoughts are on the um, giraffe physiology in the comments, and even the small fenced off reserves. And thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now let's move on to the next article. Oh, by phys.org. Japan's first Western ichthyosaur discovered during educational museum event. Huh? Well, that's interesting. So I didn't know that Japan didn't have an ichthyosaur fossil. That's interesting. These are marine reptiles that existed from the Triassic period over 235 million years ago to the late Cretaceous period. So, over 70 million years ago. And this is interesting. Now Japan has an ichthyosaur. They had almost many of them had kind of like a dolphin like body structure. but a very different tooth arrangement, and they were also reptiles and not mammals. They also did not doesn't look like they had a blowhole at the top of their neck. Well, no, not neck, top of their head. Like they would just simply come to the surface and take it in through their nostrils. So this seems to be the ichthyosaur fossil. A vertebrate fossil discovered in a rock from the late Triassic period, approximately 220 million years ago. Oh, okay, this is an early species of ichthyosaur. In Takayashi City, Okayama Prefecture, has been confirmed through joint research by Okayama University of Science and other institutions to be the first ichthyosaur fossil ever found in Western Japan. The discovery was announced by Professor Takafumi Kato of the Department of Dinosaur Paleontology and his research team at the Paleontological Society of Japan's annual meeting. So here, this seems to be one of the larger species of ichthyosaurs, especially the Triassic having the largest species of ichthyosaurs of all time. You had certain species, members of the Shastasauridae lineage of ichthyosauridae, that could reach somewhere around 70 feet in length and weigh over 120 tons. So these animals were whale size. There are certain estimations with different species of ichthyosaur that could have possibly reached close to the size of a blue whale. So we're talking maybe reaching around 180 tons. Um, so here it's showing three distinct types of ichthyosaurs, all of them belonging to different groups within within the ichthyosauromorph lineage. Especially you have Chowhusaurus from the early Triassic, and then Mixosaurus. So Chowhusaurus, I'm guessing that's somewhere between 235 to 245 million years ago when this specific ichthyosaur existed. It also did not have a dorsal fin like with what you see in many species of Jurassic ichthyosaurs, but even late Triassic ichthyosaurs. Then you have a middle Triassic Mixosaurus. This could be somewhere between 225 to 235 million years ago. And then you have the Ophthalmosaurus, which existed in different areas of England, somewhere around 160, somewhere between 155 to 165 million years ago. And Ophthalmosaurus, at least when looking at the weight. So this is probably the most or second most famous ichthyosaur due to the series Walking with Dinosaurs, the original one. Ophthalmosaurus probably reached a length of somewhere around 13 feet and might have weighed somewhere between 5 to 700 pounds. And this animal, well, like most ichthyosaurs, probably preyed on a variety of different species of cephalopods, so going after a variety of different types of Triassic, or at least with Ophthalmosaurus, Jurassic squid, and even different species of ammonites, possibly even going after smaller species of fish too. Not so sure about going after other ichthyosaurs because it's been portrayed in certain documentaries that they could have done it. But also, these animals did give live birth. We do have evidence from several ichthyosaur specimens, especially different specimens from Germany, that these animals, the females, had several pups within their stomach cavity, and um, even many instances where one of the pups is being pushed out. Now, some guesses as to why there's a certain pup being pushed out, many instances, is that might have been due to the gases that were forming inside the body during decomposition, and that's how that occurred. And other instances are that's just it was already being pushed out by the time it was being fossilized. This marks the first time an ichthyosaur has been identified from strata dating to this period in Japan. Experts in ichthyosaur research have called attention to this find, noting that ichthyosaur fossils from this era are exceptionally rare worldwide. Yeah, definitely from 220 million years ago during this part of the Triassic. They're not very common. The larger ichthyosaurs tend to appear a bit later into the Triassic. The fossil was embedded in a block of muddy sandstone measuring 59 centimeters wide, 34.5 centimeters deep, and 26 centimeters high. The rock had been on display at the Narawa Museum of Art in Takahashi City as a fossil of Monotus, a late Triassic index fossil bivalve. Records show the specimen has already been on display prior to the museum's 1994 renovation and was known to have been sourced from Takahashi. On July 26, 2023, while leading an educational field program for middle and high school students, Professor Kato, along with his longtime colleague Dr. Hirokazu Yukawa of the Fukui Prefectural Dinosaur Museum, happened to glance at the side of the rock during a lecture in the museum's fossil gallery and noticed a sizable bone fragment embedded in it. Wait, that's a bone, he exclaimed. Upon its closer inspection, he observed a porous structure typical of spongy bone, with a very thin layer of compact bone, features characteristic of marine adapted reptiles. With his expertise in paleontology, Professor Cato quickly realized the significance. Okay, well, this was dramatic. I'm glad they found the bone. Wondering how much fossil material was inside, the team cut a 14 centimeter thick slab from the rock, examined it using a CT scanner at the University of Fukui's School of Medical Sciences. They confirmed 21 bone fragments, including ribs, vertebrae, and a scapula. Their analysis revealed 4 distinct characteristics. The vertebrae were thin, had a distinctive hourglass shape. Each vertebra featured 2 rib articulation surfaces. The ribs were grooved and had a gourd-shaped cross section. Oh, okay. So they actually found um, quite a bit of fossil material from this not mosasaur, ichthyosaur. The scapula was slender and constricted in the middle. These features led the team to conclude that the fossil belonged to an ichthyosaur. Until now, all ichthyosaur fossils discovered in Japan, including Utatusaurus from the early Triassic, Kudanohama Gyoryu, Mixosaurus from the middle Triassic. Oh, wait a second. Okay, yeah, so there were a variety of ichthyosaurs been found in Japan. I think what I missed was they hadn't found any in this specific time. Okay, that makes sense because I was confused. I'm like, I swore there have been several ichthyosaurs been found in Japan. Okay. Um who's oh geez. Leptopterygius from the early Jurassic had been found in Minami Sunraku Miyagi Prefecture. I didn't know they were using distinct Japanese names for the Latin and Greek. I find that disrespectful. Just say the Latin and Greek. Commenting on the discovery, Dr. Ryusuke Motani, a leading authority on ichthyosaurs from the University of California, Davis, stated the Norian age represents a critical transition in ichthyosaur evolution. Yes, it does. When open ocean species were nearly fully developed from their coastal ancestors. However, ichthyosaur fossils from this era are extremely rare globally, with well preserved examples only known from British Columbia, Canada. The fact that one has now been found in Japan suggests that these advanced ichthyosaurs may have been capable of crossing the Panthelastic Ocean, which was even larger than today's Pacific Ocean. That's because continents were, for the most part, connected by then or back then. This is a highly significant finding. The Norian is a stage of the late Triassic spanning approximately 227 to 206 million years ago. The Pantholithic Ocean was the massive global ocean that surrounded the supercontinent Pangaea during that time. I think that the 227 to 206 million years is a bit off. Seems too long of a epoch for the Triassic. Before the academic presentation, a press conference was held at Takayashi City Hall. Okay, so that's it. Well, I'm glad that in Japan, or we have found another species. We have found a species of ichthyosaur belonging to this stage of the Triassic within Japan, and highlights a big, um, big insight into the evolution of these marine reptiles. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments of, or in the comments about this ichthyosaur, and or just ichthyosaurs in general. And thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Oh, okay. So that's it for the animal news of the day. Remember to like, comment, and if you love talking about animals, share this show with everyone you know, because nothing is better than all animals all the time.